Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bright Funders Talk at Temi. Temi is an international software development company that designs, builds, and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Welcome to our podcast, where we bring you the most inspiring stories of entrepreneurs and experts in the software development industry. And each week, we interview successful leaders who share their unique journeys and valuable insights. I'm your host, Barry, and today we are lucky enough to have a remarkable guest joining us, Ricky Hayes, CEO and founder at Debutify AI. Hello, Ricky. Welcome to the podcast.
Wow, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. We know you're a busy man, so we do appreciate it. For anyone who doesn't know who you are or your company, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the company that you work at?
My name is Ricky Hayes. I founded Debutify about 3.5 years ago. Debutify has transitioned into Debutify AI, embracing all AI. What we do is we help e-commerce brand owners, more on Shopify, to help build their store, optimize it, improve conversion rates, all with a sort of AI built-in theme that's sort of all in one. We also have new apps as well that help people with email marketing, SMS and stuff as well. So basically our goal is to help someone to build their store and also grow it over the long term, so that way that they have a sustainable business long term for them as well.
What inspired you to start your own business?
Originally, when I started this, I started as a side hustle. I was so focused on building the Shopify store. I actually spent months to build my first Shopify store, 3 months, to realize, oh wait, no one cares because I wasn't getting any traffic. So basically, what I found from that 3 months though is it took 3 months because I was getting increasingly frustrated. I'm not a developer. I'm an entrepreneur, and I wanted to be able to build my store that looked nice without knowing all the technical knowledge, without having to do all these integrations. I found that I had to install all these apps that did different things, and every app obviously is from someone different, so you have to learn something else, and it just was doing my head in, honestly. And as I said, not as if I was a developer, I'm sure it would have made sense, but not as a developer, it made no sense to me, and I was just so frustrated. So at that time, I actually partnered up with a developer, and we built the Debutify theme that's sort of built into what it is today. And then at the same time, it's evolved into now we've got an AI store builder that we're constantly improving, that can help someone ideally just with a few prompts to sort of help build their store. Because, at the end of the day, many people have amazing, great ideas, but they're so bottlenecked by the fact that, when it comes to the actual implementation of these things, it's so difficult. And that's sort of where, why I keep doing it, because I, as I said, like, I have a lot of ideas, but it's always the fact that when it comes to the physical implementation, without that technical or developer background, it's incredibly hard to overcome that.
Yeah, it's the execution that's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
How did you go about identifying the biggest pain points for online merchants? Was it through your own experience, or was it some feedback? How did you go about it?
A bit of both, right? I think that's the same for most people. That it started with the fact that I had this massive pain point, and then as building it out was like, as I said, I honestly built it more because I was like, this is such a, for the better part of the word, total pain in my bum. And I built it out, and then I thought, well, look, I'll see if other people are interested in it, because I wanted to build it, because back then when I started as drop shipping, and I was transitioning, so I wanted to build a number of stores that I could grow long term. And then I started networking with a few people, and other people like, this is a fantastic idea, this saves me so much time, so much money, and just sort of kept speaking to a number of people, and it sort of blew up from there, really, if I'm honest. Is that so many people, and then obviously we got a lot of feedback on all the issues, and basically just then listened to their feedback and be like, all right, well, let's work on implementing this and implementing that, and it sort of just sort of snowballed from there, I guess.
So you mentioned networking there. How important is networking, especially in the early stages when you're setting up a business?
So important, right? I'll be honest, for me, I'm not going to lie, I didn't understand the value of a network. I coincidentally was just in a number of groups where I had built relationships, and built those relationships and jumped on calls, and these people were really excited, and then they told it to their networks, and that's sort of what grew, because I didn't know paid ads, all of that, and I just had some chats with people, and it's sort of someone knows someone that knows someone that knows someone, and it just sort of keeps going from there. And people then made content speaking about it and stuff. So having a network is so important. If you're a part of a community, being really in that community, not just for the sake of ulterior motives, but being within the community for the sake of, I'm passionate about that community. You build these invaluable relationships that open one door, and that door might open another 10 doors that you have no idea where it might lead. Even to this day, I'm constantly trying to build my network, because you never know who, one conversation can lead to absolutely profound outcomes. So having a network is incredibly important.
So from the idea to the launch, what would you say your biggest obstacle was?
Confidence, and cash. Like at the end of the day, as a bootstrap startup, we have to accept the reality that cash doesn't come everywhere. And so actually, no, thinking about it further, I lie, would be the balancing act. I was working a full-time job in one of the big banks. I'm from Australia, and working a full-time job and then working on this product to build it out, networking, and my network were people from United States, all around the world, jumping on calls when I'm trying to work and have a semblance of some sleep. Luckily, I was in my 20s, so I was able to handle. In my 30s, I don't think I can handle that as strongly. But is that the juggle in the beginning was profound, in terms of that at the end of the day, you're still paying your bills to live today, but also trying to build something for the long term, to stay motivated, and keep that strong, firm view of your vision is honestly one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Yeah, it sounds like a nightmare. I can't believe that you put yourself through that, but obviously the results.
Neither could I.
So if we look at the growth and the scaling, since we've talked about the launch and we're going into the growth and the scaling now, what strategies have you found to be the most effective for customer acquisition and retention?
Yeah, well, look, that's one of the things that I've definitely learned, especially I'll start with the acquisition, is that when it comes that with obviously to keep retention. Sorry, I'll start with retention. With retention, at the end of the day, you need to listen to customers, right? Like at the end of the day, if you don't listen to them, people will find alternative options, right? And you're not ever going to please everyone. So there's always going to be those that are going to seek other options. That's always the way it's going to be. But one of the biggest things that I've always been a big advocate for is, listening to people. When I was in my job, the amount of ideas and just ideas that I had to help, the business streamline things and that never be heard. It was very important to me when I started the business that at the end of the day, a customer is a person. They're adding value to someone else in the world, and they should be heard. And there's so many tools out there, like, Upvote, Canny, where you can make like a simple voting board where people put ideas and people can upvote it, add comments. Is one of the most invaluable things that you can use to get retention, because then you can literally just use that, where it literally based on upvotes, you can then just be like, well, clearly everyone wants that. Let's build that first. You literally, the community, build that. So building a community of people around you is of your customers, not just treating them as customers, but as valued people, as if they're your best friend. That everyone loves to give feedback, right? Everyone loves to be heard. So if you give everyone an opportunity and really embrace that, people will, one, not only never leave because they feel so valued and heard. Two, they're going to grow your business and they'll probably pay you even more long term. In terms of acquisition, I found acquisition, especially in the software as a service space for business, that YouTube has been the biggest king for me in e-commerce. That is, that everyone, and that's sort of where I focus the attention, because so many people, reading a blog and all of that is, while it's helpful, I still do it today when I want to learn how to make a cake or something, right? Like I could go on a blog, but watching a video and seeing someone actually do it, where you can pause it and talk about using YouTube, especially organic, building word of mouth through YouTube is the most invaluable, because people then can get handheld with interactive lessons. And so I've always found that YouTube is by far, for acquisition, to get people to know your brand and build up that brand awareness, has always been the most important for me.
It's really interesting when you mention the feedback and the prioritizing of extra benefits or extra things that customers want. How do you decide like what is really a wish list and it's never going to happen and what actually is going to add real value?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a good question, right? Like in terms of that, we obviously have discussions internally, and mainly the project lead as well as researcher, and that they sort of determine that is that, something that we should add now, something we should add later, or is something that is not going to add a lot of value, even though it has upvotes, or is it something that we technically doesn't align to what our tool does, right? So basically we sort of have like an internal matrix sort of where we sort of say, is this. Most of the time though, you'll find that the feedback that generally I've experienced anyway that we've gotten directly translate to something that we can add to the tool. So most of the time we have just more gone off by someone's added this suggestion, heaps of people have upvoted it and usually also commented. We also find that if we get a lot of upvotes, but also a lot of comments and people really talking about it within sort of a sub thread, we've always sort of been like, well, clearly this is something very, very important to people. We should work on it. And if it's something we physically can't do, we try and communicate that. But otherwise, we at times we even like to try and say, hey, can you email us? I'd love to sort of learn a bit more about this and then get into a bit more of the nuts and bolts. But that's generally how I've done it.
So I'm always really interested in AI, and since your company title actually has AI in the name, it'd be rude not to ask a couple of questions about it. So can you just tell us a little bit about the challenges that come with using AI, especially in like customer-facing tools, and how you overcome those potential pitfalls?
Yeah, well, like one, there's the cost. The reality is AI is fantastic, but the reality is most companies are just, obviously either using the back end of Perplexity or OpenAI, to do these AI related functions. So there is the cost that has to be factored in, right? At the end of the day, that it's fantastic and everyone loves it. It's great for the customer, but you have to factor in the cost. So, one thing you might have to look at increasing your pricing. In terms of with the implementation, it's always an ongoing affair that you're always having to improve it and get a lot of feedback from people. So I'm just gonna have to ask again, what was the full question so I make sure to answer it properly?
That's okay. Just in general, what were the challenges of
Yeah.
using AI? Yeah.
One of the challenges is training the staff, right, to have an AI first focused, right? A lot of people, AI, it is so new, right? And while it's fantastic, and I love being on the cutting edge, one of the downsides of being on the cutting edge is when, as a leader, you're like, oh, this is definitely the cutting edge, but people within your team may not be the same. So really bringing them up to scratch and having that culture of innovation first, and partly, always having people that are willing to change really quickly to the changing tides, because software is one of the most amazing spaces, but it's incredibly fast paced, like probably the most fast paced. And so having that culture where other people are on board and then learning it was obviously one of the biggest challenges, because I had some people that are like, don't want to move at that speed. Right. And that's what I found has been a big challenge. And then two, using our network, we're getting a lot of feedback. There's a lot when you're building an AI tool, like, we're building out our Debutify AI store builder. It sounds great and all for marketing, right? It's all great and all, but behind the scenes, there's so much infrastructure and so much prompt engineering and various technical barriers that do need to go in place, whether it's, new servers, backups. I don't know every specific part because I'm not a developer. What I do know from our chief development officer is that there's a lot of work that has to go involved to be able to translate a simple prompt into an actionable outcome. And so, that's where your server costs will increase, your costs of using these tools increase, because it's not cheap when you're using these tools like OpenAI, and that's how they make a lot of their money. So it can quickly rack up a lot of costs, is sort of what I've found. And then, obviously you want to meet user demand, but at the end of the day, if you're also just bleeding a lot of money, you have to be like, well, what do we need to do here? And so for us, one of the things we're looking at doing as well is, like what a lot of AI related apps are doing, is having a base subscription plus also credits. So that way it incentivizes them and keeps them within that, so that they're incentivized to upgrade, but also if they want more credits, add more credits. So that way, then obviously you're being profitable from all the AI related work.
If we look to the future, like what AI trends do you think will help transform like online retail maybe in the next 2 to 5 years, for example?
Yeah, well, it was funny actually you bring that up. I was just speaking to someone yesterday that I caught up with lunch about, and he was saying that Google is just releasing their, I can't remember what it was called, a VR related tool. And it was really cool. It's perfectly aligned for e-commerce related businesses. You think about it, right? A lot of people want to buy stuff online, especially when it comes to clothing. But what's the biggest problem when it comes to clothing? Quality, and does it fit, right? The biggest one is, does it fit? Quality is usually something that most people can look at reviews and then determine quality, but does it fit? You know, you think of like the biggest industry on Shopify is fashion, women's fashion specifically, especially fast fashion. And one of the biggest problems that women have is that, does it fit? You know, every woman, every person is slightly different with their body structure and composition. Well, imagine if you could have a VR tool that allows you to actually put yourself on the camera and then it sits on you as if it was physically on you for the most part. That is damn cool, if I'm perfectly honest. But also that's sort of one of the futures that I'm seeing. And more broadly, we're going to see that e-commerce in using AI is not going to be sort of optional. It's going to be mandatory and baseline, right? Because what we're going to see is that customer service is going to be more AI agent focused. Firstly, you know, where what we're going to see is more e-commerce businesses with smaller teams, larger growth, and more profit from using AI, where essentially the founders won't need to hire as big of a team for a lot of these sort of virtual related jobs, especially admin and customer service. And we're going to see that there's going to be a lot more integration of AI related tools that's going to help convert more users in e-commerce, that's going to help overcome a lot of barriers and bridges that otherwise hadn't. So if I'm honest, like just yesterday in that conversation, makes you wonder what the future of retail is in my eyes. Like, it just feels like AI is now the next nail in the coffin for the retail, if you ask me.
Bad news for them, but great
Yeah.
news for you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we are coming towards the end of the session, but I just wanted to ask you one final question before we let you go. From your experience as an entrepreneur, what do you think the most important advice is, especially for someone who might be considering starting a business of their own right now?
Determination, right, would be the key word I would say. I was determined to leave my job because I hated it. That was like, I just did not feel valued. And while I am very grateful for the journey that I've had, you have to have a lot of determination to push through the downs, right? What I always say is always hold your head high. There's a lot of noise out in the world, and there'll be a lot of people that are naysayers, right? Like, being an entrepreneur or business owner or doing something that goes against the grain is always seen as abnormal, is always seen as weird, or whatever the connotation. So having your determination and driving that, trying to be passionate and turning that into determination and being obsessed with your goals is, you know, what will keep you pushing through every day. Because there's also, as much as like, for me with AI and everything that I'm doing in the company, I love it. And I absolutely love it to death and everything we're doing. I still have plenty of days where I'm still like, things are blowing up, or in terms of things are on fire and putting it out. It doesn't matter. And so for people starting out, it's the same thing, but it's even more amplified because you don't have all the support channels out there, you know, your friends, family, and all of that. Most people don't understand the online space, right? And most people never will, right? When you're being an entrepreneur, you are more moving towards the forefront of what the world is moving towards. So a lot of people are so far behind, they will never understand. So it can be very lonely. So, you know, having that determination and passion and drive, just, you got to support yourself. And so one of the things that I've been very fortunate to have is, fortunately, I have a lot of friends and family that did support me. And I think having a great network of people that around you that, while they may not understand exactly what you do, they support and respect what you're trying to do is so important. Because especially when you go through those downs, it can be crushing if you have people that like, I told you so, you know. And so you need to have people around you that are like, you're doing a phenomenal job, you should be so proud of yourself. That allows you to push through the negatives and the difficult times to then try and push towards your dream vision.
Ricky, that's amazing advice and a nice way to end the show. So, Ricky, I just want to thank you so much again for talking with me today. It's been an absolute
My
pleasure.
pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
That was Ricky Hayes, CEO and founder at Debutify AI.